Third time's the charm, maybe.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah, you probably have been looking at the comments from the past couple of episodes. Maybe the problem is me.
We'll find out. I've made some further audio adjustments on my end, and I appreciate everybody, continuing to tell me 75 times. Like, trust me, I will. I'm the first person to know if there's an audio issue. Right when I will take this file, I will dump it into Adobe, and I can see the audio waveforms, and I can tell if Paul's higher or if I'm lower. Like it's real obvious. The question is, how much do I care?
Right. No, I mean, look, this kind of feedback's appreciated, but it's like when we have we had a website outage on when was this, Tuesday morning or something.
Mm-hmm.
We're I probably, I'm on the site all day. I mean, I saw it immediately, but people tell you on Twitter or email, whatever, and yes, please do that. It's still appreciated.
I know we joke, but it is actually helpful. The challenge is that I can't actually balance. Well, I probably could, but it's quite hard to see the full audio spectrum through Voicemeeter, which is our metering tool, because for some reason XSplit compresses some of the audio for whatever reason, and so it's slightly off, and I have to make fine adjustments. I'm talking
and then one day it will be fine, and then you'll forget all about it, and months will go by, and then one day it won't be fine, and you won't have any idea why, because that's how this stuff works.
Mm-hmm. Oh, or I'll flatten my machine and forget to document what the actual settings are, like I did this time around.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, here we are back again, Thursday, something or other. The world continues to spin, thankfully. I think.
The one bit of clarity I got yesterday, I downloaded 3 or 4 of the sessions from Build that were available at that time, and I've watched maybe half of them. I don't remember. The one thing I guess we missed, and I missed in that first kind of wave of articles, was this .NET Maui thing. And having seen it in kind of a passing blurb, I assumed that what it was the next generation version of Xamarin Forms. And that is exactly what it is. So that I'm glad I happened to get that one right. It was just lucky. But it's interesting on a number of levels, because if you're familiar with Xamarin Forms in particular, because there's a Xamarin ecosystem and Xamarin Forms is part of it. This was originally designed to let you target UWP, Android, and iOS, and UWP specifically for the phone, really, right? Because the idea was you were going to make a phone app that ran on all the platforms. You could still do that in Visual Studio today. You shouldn't, but I mean, really what it's for today is Android and iOS. So the next, not the next major version, there's a major version of Xamarin Forms coming this year, but the one for next year, 2021, which will be based on .NET 6 and will ship at the same time in November 2021, is going to be called .NET Maui. And Maui is not an acronym. No, I'm sorry, Maui is an acronym. Maui is not a. It's not, but it's not really. It's a. It's also not a code name. It stands for multi. Jesus, Paul.
Multi-account user interface.
Multi-app user interface. Thank you. And it's going to target Windows, Mac, Android, and iOS. Right. So interesting. It's getting kind of closer to that, Flutter type thing where it's any screen. But this raises a couple of questions. We just had this Project Reunion thing where they're finally moving forward from UWP and providing something that makes sense for the future for Win32 and UWP developers on desktop. For developers, that means a lot of changes in namespaces and things. And if you haven't been using UWP XAML, then some changes in XAML for sure. But they're also doing this other thing on the side where you're going to be able to target Windows and other platforms in .NET Maui. Are those two things ever going to merge? Do they become the same thing? There's a debate going on there. Microsoft's not being clear on this. It's still a year and a half out, so whatever. The other thing is they're getting rid of the Xamarin Forms brand, at least, and maybe the Xamarin brand completely. This thing is literally going to be called .NET Maui. That's not a code name. That's the name. And that's interesting. Xamarin, whatever you think of the brand, I mean, it's a thing. And it's interesting. The projects you look at in Visual Studio and the way you think about this as a developer, let's say 2 years from now, I guess, realistically speaking, are going to look very different. And it's still a little bit up in the air. I mean, they're not. It's far enough out that I don't blame them for not being clear on this. But anyway, that was kind of interesting to me. So just as a tip for everybody, if you haven't been watching the build stuff live, and I have watched a ton of it live, by the way, I've had the thing pretty much running. They are making these sessions available for download for offline viewing as well. And they're 12 hours or more behind. So I'll look again today, and I bet most of the sessions from at least early yesterday will be available now, I'm sure. So something to look at.
Yep. Now build is officially over, and it seemed like it went.
I think they're just doing replays today.
Yeah. I mean, I think the live aspect is now over, and it seemed to go pretty well. Like Microsoft actually had it strung together, and no major catastrophes.
No, we talked about this. There is a fascinating kind of guy lurking in the bushes kind of aspect, the voyeuristic aspect to seeing inside people's houses and how different people live. And Scott Goo, for example, had all these they look like hardcover books behind him in this giant library he was sitting in. And there was actually a Q&A session. They asked him what the books were, because someone said it looked like a legal library. If you've ever been to a lawyer's office, you've seen all the identical rows of books, and they're stamp collections. He's
that
a stamp
is exactly what I would expect in Scott's office.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, okay, so that stuff. I think that's always fascinating.
Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah.
We had all that going on. Not much. Microsoft did announce one sort of two interesting things. One, Skype and Teams interoperability, which was supposed to be live at the end, I think, of last month.
I was going to say it was April. Yeah.
Has been delayed until the end of June. So that happened. And then also, Paul, have you ever noticed that in Teams, if you're in a chat and you hit Control F, it does nothing?
I have not.
Well, that's gonna change.
Okay.
They're finally going to be, and this isn't until the summer, they're finally going to introduce the ability to search within a chat, which is kind of crazy because this app is 3 years old. Now, there is search at the top, which will pull things out of like our specific chat, but there was no way to search just within our own chat if you wanted. So
this came up on Windows Weekly yesterday, but I have a real concern now, and I think others do too, that because of the popularity of this product, Teams is being stuffed with more and more stuff. It's becoming,
absolutely.
It's what I call the SharePointification of Teams.
It is SharePoint. I'm pretty sure it's like a wrapper on top of SharePoint.
Yeah, I mean, look, whatever you think of SharePoint, it's a mess. And there are good aspects to it being a mess. I mean, it's a huge platform. It does so much stuff, and that's kind of what's happening to Teams. But this is the problem with like the desktop version of Outlook. It's the problem with SharePoint. It's at some point it just starts bursting at the seams with all the stuff you can do. So yeah, it's funny that such a basic bit of functionality, right? I mean, if someone said, Brad, look, we need you to design a chat app. Why don't you look at whatever you're using today? What are the things that you might need? Find would probably be somewhere in the top 20,
Yeah, and what was a little bit more befuddling is there's actually a section inside of each tab where it will show you the files that you and I have shared with each other. So you would think that like this isn't some crazy thought, but whatever, it's coming.
It somehow got overlooked. Yeah.
So
all right. Well, it's the new Death Star, Brad. They're adding to it.
All right. Well, what is today? Today is, I think, Friday. Or no, today's Thursday.
I'm not joking. When I got up late today, I walked down the stairs, and what the thought that went through my head was, I don't have to get cleaned up early today because our podcast is at 1 because it's, oh crap, it's Thursday. Yeah. So that happened. And then you pinged me earlier and you were like, you ready? And I'm like, yeah. So it's just been that kind of, I want this befuddled thing to be over,
Mm-hmm. I think we all do.
Yeah.
We all do. So anyways, tomorrow's show will be at 1 p.m. Eastern time. That's when we do that, I think. That, yeah. That sounds about right.
Yes. Also, Memorial Day weekend's coming. So this will be like the beginning of a long weekend.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that extended time at home and not going into the office.